Welcome back to Tales from the PowerAge, and we today are going to take you back 38 years. 38 years to when the summers were, well, pretty much like they are today. Wet, miserable, raining and muddy. And we're taking you back to Knebworth, 1985, which you could do it today and it probably wouldn't be much different, apart from many of the things the boys are going to touch on today. So, hi guys, nice to see you. There you go. Right, we're ready to rock and ready to talk about this amazing day. This isn't one that I was lucky enough to make, but the other three guys are going to do their best to remember what happened on that wonderful afternoon in near Stevenage, actually, a place called Knebworth, which wasn't a million miles from where we grew up. So the gig was Deep Purple. So any initial thoughts on the lineup, guys? Gav, come to you first.
I thought it was pretty strong, to be honest. You know, it was. I guess they chose Knebworth because Deep Purple were of an era where Led Zeppelin and all these bigger bands, these kind of classic monsters of rock, as in the old sense of the word, they wanted to kind of hark back to that, and I guess they were expecting the age group to know about that. They were going to go and see Deep Purple Mark II. But yeah, I mean, Scorps, definitely a few of us fans there, but even down to Mama's Boys on the bill, you know, we were aware of them already, even our tender age of 15 or whatever we were at the time. And yeah, lots of bands for your money there.
Brilliant. Okay, Gaps, any exciting thoughts before we get into the advertising?
Yeah, totally. I was massive Richie fan. It's been remarked on in some of these pods before. I was massively into Rainbow. Never got a chance to see Rainbow, unfortunately. I was 13 when they gave it up, and Richie went back into Deep Purple. So yeah, got the album. Did the album come out before? Must have done, mustn't it? Can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a really strong album, and they played a few songs off it, obviously. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing them. I loved Scorpions, and I wasn't amongst a lot of people, but I really wanted to see Meatloaf as well. So yeah, I was really looking forward to the day.
Cool. Jan?
This is 85, so for a lot of it, I've mentioned many times, I've been to Donington in 84 for a festival, but this, for the rest of you the guys, 85 Donington was a bit of a blowout. It didn't have a great lineup at the time. So we chose this. We went to Knebworth because this had massive. It was Deep Purple, it was Scorpions.
Good point.
It was a hell of a lineup. There was 8. It was band heavy. 8 bands, including UFO. There was some more legends on there. So there was a lot of excitement for this. So yeah, we're really looking forward to this. It was a big one.
Yeah, cool. Ironically, though, when you look back on 85 Donington now and you think, oh, I wish we'd gone. So yeah. There you go. Never mind. Who knew? Who knew?
We went to a gig every few days back in the day. So.
Yeah. So, okay, Gav, do you want to just talk us through the reformation of the classic?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is the whole point of, you know, of doing the Knebworth. They did a whole European tour as well, probably a world tour. Yes, a world tour. But it was all about this reunion album, you know, and the poles apart that Mr. Gillan and Mr. Blackmore were, and they never thought they'd ever get them back together. But surprising what a massive check can do. And yeah, and it blew itself out rather quickly as well. I think they just did two studio albums, but this one's really good. I think it's a great album. I think they'd put their problems aside when they recorded it and did a decent bit of product. And I was a massive Whitesnake fan at the time, so given that 2 of them are Whitesnake, old school Whitesnake personnel as well, I was, you know, you can't go wrong with a bit of Ian Pace. He's one of the best drummers ever, and I was quite looking forward to seeing him. Because I hadn't seen him with Whitesnake.
And the album stands up today as well, doesn't it? Doesn't sound dated at all, really, does it?
It really does.
I wasn't a Rainbow fan or a Whitesnake. I old Deep Purple, but that record, I loved it. It's brilliant. I really like it, and I still actually put it on today. Perfect Strangers and Knocking on Your Back, 2 cracking tracks.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of the advertising that was which looks great, right? So that really cool, and in particular the ticket in purple. Well, the main text is in purple, so I think you've got one of them there, haven't you?
Yeah, it's actually quite thick. It's good piece of card But yeah, the amusing thing about this ticket, and we'll come to it, some of these points later on, is just how many negatives are on there. You know, if you really know how to get a crowd going by saying no camping, no bottles, no cans, no cameras, no tapes, enjoy yourself, people. You know, it's so down. You know, and as we found out on the day, there wasn't much of anything in terms of organising. But yeah, it's a cool ticket, and £12.50, 14 on the day. I think they wanted to sell wanted to get 100,000 in there, but there were various licensing issues, and in the end they didn't get a liquor license. You couldn't buy alcohol on site, and there were arguments with the police as well about policing it, so they had to reduce it to 80,000. So I think they did sell 80,000 tickets. It was
interestingly, you got 116,719. So not sure where the gap went between all those other tickets, but
yeah, it's funny how they kind of inflate these numbers, but
yeah.
But then again, don't forget the tickets would have been sold in a book that have been distributed to all of those record shops that are listed on that poster on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
you'd have walked in to get your ticket from your book, like a raffle ticket.
Yeah, they'd have been a load over, wouldn't they?
They probably made twice as many, didn't they? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but cool stuff all the same. So do you want to go on to the merch, Gav? And I think you've got a copy of the programme with the merch sheet as well.
That's true. Yeah, I had that T-shirt in the middle, and I loved it. But you know, the classic thing is these days everything's so branded. You know that the whatever you see on the ticket, you see on the T-shirt, you see at the show. I've never seen that Knebworth Fayre 1985 image anywhere other than on the T-shirt. So it's quite a weird thing. But yeah, the programme, as we let me
same as the album.
pick it up. Yeah, it's just the world tour programme. There's nothing at all specific to Knebworth, but there is a merch sheet, and even that hasn't got Knebworth merch. If I can find it. Yeah, here we go. So, you know, some of that would have been
generic.
yeah, on the back, just advertising their product. But I mean, it's a decent enough program. I don't know how I managed, given that it rained all day. I don't know how I managed to get that out of there, but glad I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that T-shirt is sadly long gone.
But a cool T-shirt. I remember a couple of the guys having that T-shirt at the time, which was great.
Yeah.
So let's get on to the first couple of bands, and we had a bit of a chat about this before. I don't think anyone can remember anything about Alaska, can they?
No, I'm fairly sure the bus that I was on was a bit late, and we definitely didn't get there for them.
Okay.
I've got the album.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Wow.
Mr. Bernie Marsden, you know, I refer you to my earlier comments about Whitesnake.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen them, but I think we missed them.
Right.
I don't have any recollection.
Yeah, we went. If we recall, we've been talking about this. Gav and I, we went together. We didn't get a coach or anything, and we at the time, this is '85. We're very much indebted to Gav's mum and dad, who did more than their fair share of lifts. This was fairly local to us, but it was still a journey. It was still a good 3/4 hour journey. So yeah, cheers to Gav's mum and dad. Thank you very much indeed. It was appreciated. The memories are still living with us.
Share for sure.
Yeah, the memories are still with us 38 years later. So thank you very much indeed, Gav's mum and dad.
Now we know what a pain in the arse it is with our kids. We appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
He says picking his cuts up from Harry Styles from Wembley Stadium after the gig. Hey ho. Anyway, so no memories from Alaska.
Sorry.
Gappy, you've got maybe not a memory from the day from Mountain, but maybe a couple of facts from Mountain that some of our
the only thing we can all remember about a Mountain is there's two songs. The Mississippi Queen they still play today all the time. On Planet Rock, they have that Nantucket Sleigh Ride, which was the theme tune to Weekend World, the political program on ITV. I think it was on a Sunday. It was a ridiculous song to actually have as a political thing because it's actually really quite metal.
It really worked, though, didn't it? It worked. It really worked as a theme tune.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Hard-hitting news coverage.
It made me want to watch the first few minutes of it anyway.
So I'll just take a quick look at that for all you quiz goers that are down your local boozer on a Tuesday night doing the quiz. That might be a question that comes up. So grab and zap that, or take a picture, and that might win you the beer on the night. So,
and there is an explanation as to what Nantucket sleigh ride means. Do you know what that means?
Oh, is there? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the song is about hunting whales, as in the mammals in the sea, whales. Yeah. And Nantucket sleigh ride is an expression that used to exist back in the day. That basically, when they've harpooned a whale in a small boat, it takes them on a sleigh ride. It drags them through the ocean.
Maybe it's quite a relevant song then for a political program, because if Brian Walden saw himself as the small boat harpooning the whale at the time, then maybe that's
that's a bit deep, mate.
Yeah, wow, look at that. Well, hey, we digress into political, into the political wilderness. On that note, let's move to Mama's Boys.
Well, Mississippi Queen was the other famous song out of that lot.
Yeah, it's a great song as well.
Mr. Leslie West, who's now no longer with us. So yeah, next up, Mama's Boys.
So, Jam, you were looking forward to these guys, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a big Mama's Boys fan at the time. They'd opened for Thin Lizzy a year or two before this. I think it was Lizzie's last tour, certainly towards the end of Lizzie's career. So they were getting well known, and a lot of people liked them. They did impress, but they would do, because the tracks they had were such barnstormers, and they just came out. They had great attitude. So I was very much looking forward to these. I'd come across these. I'd randomly been recording segments of the Friday Rock Show, as we would on our tape players off of from Tommy Vance's Friday Rock Show, and I'd caught "Don't Tell Mama," which is on this Power, I think, titled "Power and Passion" record. And it was a dense song. I just played it over and over till I could buy the record, and then they came up on the bill for this. So I was very chuffed that a smaller band was actually going to be one of our bands, and I just remember them blowing it out of the water. They're brilliant. But when you listen back, when you hear these, they're all such anthems. They had real anthems, and when you look back, it's hard to believe they didn't push on and become a bigger band than they were. I mean, there was a lot behind why they didn't do that.
Well, this was their peak period, probably. Even though they tried to go commercial later on and got a singer in, they were pretty big. They're certainly growing over here. And on the interview that they did on Radio 1 for this show, they were saying they were headlining 3,000 to 5,000 seaters in America, as well as supporting big bands over there like Iron Maiden. They were actually doing their own big headline shows in the States. So yeah, I didn't know that until I did the interview. But yeah, I mean, this is probably another show in the future. But ECT, if anyone out there remembers that show on Channel 4, was it Channel 4?
Channel 4, yeah.
Yeah, it had loads of cool bands, and I think we were aware of Mama's Boys, or I was aware of how good they were from that, because it was just the three of them on stage, and Pat the Professor was just so comfortable in how brilliant he was on guitar, doing solos with nothing underneath apart from the bass and the drums.
Fantastic guitar player, very underrated.
Definitely among our group of friends, we appreciated how good they were on that show, and it was exactly around this time.
Yeah, I mean, not digressing. We caught Pat McManus's band many years later, Gav, if you recall, at the Borderline in London.
Yeah.
And he just played. He was just out of this world, still just playing to a room for 250 people.
And his brother came up on stage and did 2 songs.
Yeah.
1 song.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So they were fantastic. So
I mean, obviously, if people don't know, that there were 3 brothers, and the drummer Tommy died shortly after this. Well, maybe 3 or 4 years after this, I think. There's the Needle in the Groove, which is the song that we all loved off ECT.
Yeah.
This was brilliant. This has got Without You, which has got a massive long guitar solo by the main man. And then the album, I think loads of us had this.
Yes.
Yeah, when
it gave them so many levels.
Yeah, that's it.
Especially the poster.
If you remember, Gappy being the ladies' man. Do you remember that? You remember that record, don't you, Gaps?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
It's probably, it doesn't exist in my collection anymore. I don't know why. It maybe got a bit dirty. I don't know.
It's probably at Jammy's house.
That's another good. I mean, it sounds a little bit dated, but it's a Chris Sangarides production.
It does sound good. I think it sounds good. I put that on a few months ago, Gav, and it does sound great, actually.
And he went on to do Thin Lizzy as well. He did Thunder and Lightning. Or was that before?
That was before.
That was before, yeah.
Tricky thing with the production there, as you're saying there, the only tricky thing sometimes with the keyboards, because synthesizers and keyboards, this is 80s, this is 85. It was tricky because sometimes the keyboard sound can date a record, depending on how it's produced, and that's, I think, what you meant there. A little bit dated that record when you put it on, because the keyboards.
Yeah, if you all remember, Needle in a Groove on the record, it's got a load of keyboards in it, and of course on ECT it didn't have any.
Yeah. And a lot better for it.
But Needle in the Groove also, that was the second Mama's Boys album it appeared on, because it had been on the previous.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, there were two of those. Yeah.
So that's Mama's Boys, and big thumbs up from everyone on it. Before we move to Blackfoot, you won't be surprised that Gappy didn't remember anything from Mama's Boys.
No, unfortunately, I just glossed over that. I've seen Mama's Boys live 3 times, and I can't remember a single note played. Not good.
Which is a brilliant segue into Blackfoot, which nobody can remember anything from.
Blackfoot. If there'd have been a bar, it would have been in the bar.
Boogie woogie rock and roll sort of thing. So we weren't really looking forward to these much.
No, I guess
they like them actually afterwards. I think they're quite good now.
Yeah.
They may have appealed to more of the Deep Purple fan than our age group. I guess.
I know that my brother had a lot of Blackfoot records. If that helps, at 6-7 years old. Dill, you'd have loved these, because these are they'd have really appealed to your boogie southern rock.
Well, Gibson Les Paul. I mean, what more do you want?
And just how many songs did they cram in? Must have been going twice as fast as everybody else.
That's a rock set, right? That's a pub rock set. Low down rock and roll. Let's get your beer and let's just play some tunes.
Yeah, so if anyone's got any memories of Blackfoot, let us know in the comments below.
Okay, so let's move on to UFO Mark 30, I'm guessing. Let's go to Jam first. Any memories from UFO? You won't be surprised that Gappy can't remember anything from UFO,
but I really liked UFO because I was a big Schenker fan. MSG was the first band I saw, 22nd October 1983. Loved them. When I saw them, they played MSG. They played Lights Out and Doctor Doctor. So this UFO came along. It's Phil Mogg, reliable as ever on his vocals at this point. So they were really good. I thought only they played the hits, Love to Love Only. So everyone loved them, from what I can recall. It went down really well. I mean, the boys will talk about more of who was in the actual band, but Phil Mogg front and centre in his lovely, lovely yellow outfit. Only Phil Mogg would do that at a rock show, I think. Immense. I thought they were really good.
So Phil Mogg is North London's finest. So Gav, any thoughts from that day on UFO?
Yeah, in my own little Magnum world, it's definitely on my radar because Jim Simpson, the drummer on A Storyteller's Night, left them high and dry to jump over to what he thought was a bigger and better gig of UFO. So this was his first gig, well, not first gig probably, but first album with UFO after leaving Magnum. And again, back to ECT, Magnum were the only band to be on twice. When they first appeared, they had him on drums, and then they appeared at the end of the season with a different drummer, the marvelous Mickey Barker. So we'd already seen him on tour that year with Magnum, but
several times.
A couple of times. Yeah, so it was interesting to see him looking the same chrome drum kit, but playing with a completely different band. And they were, because it was new members all round. That I think only Phil really was the only UFO member that everyone knew left. They had Atomic Tommy on guitar as well. I think the band probably just were pushing the new album and the new stuff because that's what they wanted to, get across to the people.
And there were as many UFO members in Wasted as there were in UFO, ironically. So no battle for the.
And then we all piled to the tour as well.
And I got Tommy M's Plectrum.
But for Simpson, he went from Magnum.
The first and only time I tried to get on stage at a gig, that one.
Ooh.
UFO, yeah. It was near the end. I waited for near the end. I was right down the front, obviously. We all know that the the barrier at Oxford was so low, you could easily climb on it and try and jump on the stage, which is what I tried to do. And I got hauled out by security, unfortunately, and had to wait outside in the cold for my mum and dad to come pick me up.
And they were supported by Palace as well.
That mid 80s transition between new wave of British heavy metal to glam was an odd era, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of look,
Definitely.
you were going from that sort of, I don't know, just a bit odd looking to then full on glam, weren't you? A couple of years later. So
I suppose so. Yeah.
Well, that's Simpson. To finish off on the Simpson, the drummer, Gav, just to the Magnum context. We saw them at St Albans Queensway Hall, which is like a village hall type of town hall.
Town hall, yeah.
He went from there, though. He jumped, as you said. Magnum were doing storytellers. He went to UFO, and he was then playing fourth on the bill at Knebworth in front of 80,000. So at the time, I mean,
it definitely seemed like a good gig for him. Definitely.
Yeah, Magnum. Then obviously
Magnum went almost stratospheric.
Yeah, and then they went to headline Wembley in the NEC.
So how interesting! I wonder how he looks back at this time, and interesting, really good shout from you before. How does that work out?
Well, I'm sure he'll look back with pride if he bought a house out of it.
Yeah,
I doubt he bought a pair of drumsticks out of it.
They were still quite cheap then, though, so you never know. Anyway, that's UFO. Let's move on.
Good drummer.
Yeah, let's move on to Meatloaf. So, Gappy, there were a few things going on in the crowd at this point.
There were, yeah, but as I said before, I was actually really looking forward to Meatloaf because one of the guys who isn't on the pod, Shane, he got me into Meatloaf. He taped me Bat Out of Hell, the album, and I played that a lot. And then I bought Dead Ringer when it came out, I think, or just the year after, maybe in '82 when I was 12. I know it sounds so stupid, doesn't it? So I was really looking forward to him. Excuse me. A few things going on in the crowd. Well, a few of you may remember I had a biker's leather jacket back in the day. Had a really, really thick collar on it, and it actually saved my life because I got hit on that collar. I was so lucky to be hit on the collar with a full can of McEwen's Export, which I did actually pick up and drink afterwards. But if that had hit me on the head, because it came in at such a velocity, I'm sure I would have been either dead or certainly knocked out. So that was very nice. Also, I'd actually experienced the festival thing of being a young boy in a festival. I was quite big, but I was still young. And I got urinated on my right leg. And about half an hour later, I got urinated on my left leg. Of course, being a young boy, you don't turn around and shout at somebody because you'd have probably got a mouthful of fists. So you just took it, and it didn't really matter anyway because we were all so wet from the rain. But Meatloaf was he was all right, I thought. He had a broken leg, and he was a trooper. He came on. And
he fell off the stage a couple of weeks before, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah. He got hit in the face by a full bottle of piss. And he didn't bat an eyelid. He just shook it off, waved his hair out, and carried on singing. And I thought, he's getting pelted from the crowd, and he just nailed it. So fair play to him. I thought he was all right.
What a professional! Look, before we move on to Gav, Gav wants to apologise, not personally, but through me for wheeling on your legs. Afternoon. So let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, there's one common denominator.
Fortunately, it's in a different house today. But Gav, what were your remembrance of Meatloaf?
Yeah, like Gav, I like the stuff. I don't remember enjoying this particularly. I think, in retrospect, people say that he was too high on the bill and he wasn't metal enough. Wasn't rocky enough, and a bit of kind of theatre is probably not what your average meathead wanted on a day like that. But you can. The set is on YouTube, and the speed they play the songs is remarkable. It's like really fast and really good as well, because they had Bob Kulick, Bruce Kulick, brother, playing guitar, and he is hot. It really shows that it's much more metal than Meatloaf normally is live. Really competent band behind him. So, it's worth a listen, actually. It's much better than you think it was. But yeah, the people were getting pissed off with the rain and how cold it was. And Yeah, and there were bottle fights and all the good old festival stuff going on. So he probably didn't get a fair crack of the whip, but yeah, pretty good. Me and Shane had seen him in Oxford Apollo the year before on the Bad Attitude tour. Just risk of repeating myself. There you go. And yeah, same. I think it was the same lineup as well. So yeah, that was the last. That was the second time I've seen him. Haven't seen him since.
Okay. Well, you obviously left an implant mark on your mind. Jam, we'll come to you on Meatloaf and stay with you for Scorp. So
all I can say is I'm really grateful that Gappy had graduated to a metal leather jacket as opposed to his blue anorak that he wore at had rainbow sew on patch on by his nan, which is very much so. If you'd have had your rainbow, your blue anorak,
I probably wouldn't be here, mate.
Here now. So yeah, we're all grateful for that fact.
Thanks very much.
And I love how Gappy, you can remember the order in which your legs were pissed on, but you can't remember any of them. It was this leg. No, it was that leg. Love it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's a life-changing experience, isn't it? I had it at Oxford Apollo once. Actually, in the stalls in Oxford Apollo, the bogs are right there. And someone's still pissed on my leg.
Well, Gappy would like to apologise for that.
I turned around and there was this big hairy guy, and I thought, no, I can't avoid him.
So,
for Meatloaf, sorry, but for Meatloaf, yeah, just to finish off, when they say, oh, there's some people this, some people thought that, that was me. I was some people. I loved metal. I was a metalhead, perhaps sometimes a bit of an earth dog, and certainly a rivet head. And I didn't want Meatloaf, bad attitude. Like a bat out of hell. I didn't want that on my metal wheel. So that genuinely couldn't have given a rat's ass. And yes, he was brave, but he didn't need to be on the stage doing his pop stuff. So yeah, I was quite happy, and I might have chuckled when the guy fell over arse over tit, and as did perhaps 78,000 other people watching. In hindsight, when you look back, I'm a parent and a grown adult, and that I think, oh, that's a real shame, but still chuckle slightly. But no, I wasn't into Meatloaf at all, and I didn't understand what he was doing on the bill. Like some people didn't understand why Bad News played Donington. I quite like Bad News, but Meatloaf didn't make sense.
So just worth touching on the fact there are only 6 songs, but I think as Gavin mentioned before the pod that most of these were about an hour long. So that probably
why they have to play them twice as fast.
Yes. So let's stay with you, Jam, and we'll go to Scorp. Because,
Scorps.
Big Scorps fan.
Right,
at the time. Excuse me. At the time, so 85, Scorps had gone stratospheric. They're a massive band, as we all know. They'd done the whole 70s thing with Udi, John Roth, and different names that he went by. So Scorpions were a massive band. But then they redid it. They came through brilliantly. Matthias Jabs, one of my favourite guitarists, I love him. They were coming to see us. They were conquering the world. That set list. So it just caught my eye again. It's such a winning set list. It was massive.
Loving You Sunday Morning, the only one missing, really, to my mind, on that.
But such a single. I mean, everything about it. Still Loving You. It even gave you a break in the middle, which is very kind to just sort of chill out for a song. But no, I was really looking forward to them. It's the first time I was seeing them. I thought they were brilliant. Lots of some of the guys that cover this off. It was really, by this time, it was really wet. We were of that age. We were 15, 16, and there wasn't a liquor license anyway. But we didn't really know at the time because we were just too young to be able to be going getting beers and getting served in that sort of circumstance. So Gavin and I, we were pretty much in the same position the whole day. We didn't leave. We didn't move. We didn't leave, really, did we? We didn't go off meandering. They didn't have sides. They were
it was the same angle as this picture, just probably 100 yards back.
And we had a great position, and we caught all the bands, and it was great. And unlike the Doningtons, there wasn't so much movement in the crowd, thankfully. We were pretty much able to just sort of stay in position. But no, when they came on, I thought they were brilliant, but totally and utterly biased. I'd been waiting for this moment a long, long time. And I thought they were great, and they didn't let us down with the actual set list. So yeah, that was my view. Really awesome.
Okay, thanks, Jam. Gaps, let's take you referenced the sound on the day. What was your?
Yeah, I was really looking forward to Scorps. I had Blackout, and I didn't have what was the next one? bloody hell, come completely out of my mind.
Love at First Sting?
Love at First Sting, yeah. Didn't have that, but I knew the songs because Jamo played them to me all the time. Coast to Coast, one of my favourite instrumentals of all time. But the sound quality was really, really not there. It certainly wasn't as good as it was for Meatloaf. I think maybe that Deep Purple might have been a little bit scared that they were going to get blown off the stage by the amazing metalness of a proper heavy metal band. Not a rock band. They're a metal band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's allegedly Deep Purple might have been wearing. Gav?
Well, I mean, Deep Purple did have an attitude that day. You know, we can talk about that later. But yeah, I wouldn't have put it past them. But Scorpions were totally on fire. You know, I think if you just bought a live album the year before and you know that inside out, and then you get this set list, it's just exactly what you want, isn't it? And do they ever do a bad gig? You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. They always expect a certain level and they're always better. And they're, you know, I've seen them so many times where they've been better than I thought they're going to be. You know, and they're just surprisingly, you forget how good the songs are and you forget how good the musicianship is. But yeah,
they were still absolutely brilliant in 2018, which was the last time we saw them.
Exactly. Yeah, I include that in the same, you know, the same.
They're so consistent. That's the thing. They're so consistent. They're so professional. And I think that's what sometimes people almost knock them for. Is like, are they a bit boring? When you go and see them, they're just, you know, they're just so good. As Gap said, when we saw them,
nothing like boring.
And now with Mickey D on drums, he's given them an extra kind of push, hasn't he?
Moving on now to Deep Purple.
Yeah.
And Jam, I'm going to come to you just to reference the sound. And I know you talked about how good the sound was on the night, considering how bad maybe the rest of the day had been with the weather and everything else going on.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. When you talk about the sound for Scorpions, you could expect it because it was a terrible day's weather and there was lots of problems. But when Deep Purple come on and the sound was so good, I mean, they were late on. They were late on. We'd been waiting
2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours between the Scorps and Deep Purple. Can you imagine?
In the rain, in the dark.
In the dark.
In the same position since 1, 2, yeah. But when they did come on, the sound, whether that's why they were late on sorting the sound, then if it's the case, fair enough. I doubt it. But the sound, I thought it was brilliant. It sounded really, really great. And as I said, I wasn't a massive Deep Purple fan, but they were brilliant.
Okay, excellent. Gaps. I know you love Rainbow.
Yeah, I was so stoked for Purple. It was the first time I was going to see Richie Blackmore, and it turned out to be the last time I ever saw him as well. So yeah, they were absolutely amazing. The laser show they produced was out of this world. The one thing on the set list that you might notice, any Rainbow fans might notice, is that they played Difficult to Cure, which is actually an instrumental, but it's based on Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And for him to get them to play that, I thought was unbelievable. But then it did playing with all the lasers, because they had lasers showing Beethoven, and he was during the classical pieces of the thing, he was waving his baton like this, and when they went into the more metal bits, he was stood with his arms crossed and stamping his foot, which was absolutely brilliant. Never forget it. I think, and I spoke to one of the other guys, I think it was Gav, about this before, maybe all of you. They were supposed to be being the loudest gig that had ever been done, and I'm sure they tried to do it for a song or for a bit, and it didn't work. The PA went wrong or something, so that never happened. But yeah, I mean, look at the set list; it's amazing, isn't it? There's a good selection of songs off Perfect Strangers, and some old songs that, of course, everybody knows. Brilliant.
Yeah, these songs fitted in quite well. You know, they didn't sound drastically different or anything. You know, maybe they're a bit more straightforward, I suppose, than some of the older songs, but they didn't sound weird.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. So
I just recall, and I think with those lasers, it was like nothing we'd seen before. Certainly not 1985. No. It was a long time since I like it of the like again. And even the other week, ours at an Enter Shikari gig the other week in London, and they had brilliant lasers. And I was thinking, oh, this is good. It's like Deep Purple in '85. And to be thinking that, no, seriously, I did. I thought, this is really good. It compares really well And like, wow, because bring out lasers, and I'm just putty in your hands. Just get the laser. I don't know why everybody. Yeah. But do you remember the lasers seemed to go on forever, and you'd have the trees in the background behind us?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
That's one of my most vivid memories. Yeah, I think it was Knocking at Your Back Door, where the lasers were in time with the da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun.
Yeah,
And we could just follow it from the stage through to the trees.
Yeah.
As far as you could see, the bloody lasers were going. It was amazing.
Fun fact, folks, I didn't know what the song Knocking at Your Back Door was about until about 10 years after this gig.
Well, the ladies, man. Anyway, to try and keep this we'll try and keep it before the watershed. Gab, over to you.
Yeah, they totally delivered. I think there's kind of a couple of things here. Not that we were used to video screens, but if you read reviews of the event now, there's a lot of kind of criticism that there weren't video screens up, and it hadn't been invented then. Well, they had, because the Rolling Stones had used them in the 70s. So I think it was Deep Purple crossing out that particular cost and maybe putting it into the lasers instead. But I don't think I cared back then.
I didn't care.
No. So it didn't really bother me. And I think that's maybe why the lasers had even more impact, because it was something huge, coming right at you, So, yeah, but the music was just fantastic. You could tell that they were a proper band, from back in the day, and they sync together. And, it was a lot of improvisation as well. I mean, I guess they honed the improv on the tour before this show, but lots of it seemed to be spontaneous. They broke out into Jesus Christ Superstar at one point, and Gillan had done that in the West End. And so that was quite a nice nod for him to get that recognition, I guess. Same as the Difficult to Cure thing for Blackmore, for the weather and apologising for the wait. And, he really got the crowd on his side with being completely down to earth and lovable. And I remember that. I remember thinking, oh, God, he does realise we've stood here for 2 hours. Thank God. But, some of his voice was a bit croaky during the songs, but when he sang his high notes, they were perfect. So it was a bit odd like that. But again, you can't sing like Ian Gillan and do a world tour, the way they used to tour. These days there'll be a week in between a gig. But they were fabulous. I thought, really loved them. Still enjoy listening to the set now.
Okay,
brilliant.
Excellent. Gav and I went to see almost the end of this tour 2 years later in Pforzheim in Germany. It's part of the Monsters Rock. Just looking at the set list, it's there's a few different songs actually, so they changed it quite a bit by the time they got to.
Interesting.
Interestingly, on your point, Gaps, Difficult to Kill, they still played in Germany 2 years later.
Good day. Oh, cool.
Thought, it's quite very interesting. But a couple of other songs they played that weren't on this set list, Dead or Alive.
That was probably from the second album. Was it, or was it from this album?
No, it's not on Perfect Strangers, I don't think.
Yeah.
Might be on House of the Blue Light, but I'm not
House
sure.
of the Blue Light, yeah.
Hard Loving Woman.
What a story.
So yeah, quite interested actually.
Yeah.
But, they did play Knocking at Your Back Door, so keep everybody happy on that one as well.
Yeah, some rather ironic lyrics in that one.
I'm finished on Smoke on the Water. I funnily enough, I saw something on Twitter the other night, and you'll have to excuse me, but if it's the wrong symphony, but Richie's been absolutely open that he did Smoke on the Water is Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 played backwards, and the interviewer's going, "What? And you're admitting this? You're saying you just ripped off Beethoven?" He said, "Yep, it's just played backwards, and that's where I got it from."
Brilliant.
So,
He's dead. What's he going to do?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's out of copyright now somehow.
Yeah, that's really cool.
This is quite difficult to get hold of now. I had it, and I must have sold it or something. It's the live album. It's all except for 2 songs, which if you look on the previous slide, I put an asterisk on. This is the whole set, and you can just see how grim it is from the photos there of the rain-sodden crowd. But the title, In the Absence of Pink, is based on something Gillan says in between songs. He says, what we really need now is a whole load of pink, but in the absence of any pink, here's some blues. So that's where that title comes from, and then they go into blues.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, so it's quite cool.
So that's
it for today's. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to connect with us, we are on Facebook on Tales of the PowerAge. We are on Twitter. We're quite active on Twitter. We've done over 400 tweets now, I think, which is pretty amazing, on reactions and main tweets. On Tales from the PowerAge, I know this is a bit confusing, but apologies for that. I'll take full responsibility. TTFTPR, quite like that little handle. We're online at www.talesfromthepowerage.com. Or if you want some merch, and this is the stuff you really want to be going for, it's at redbubble.com, merchandise TFT PowerAge. So hope you enjoyed those memories from Knebworth today, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
See you later.